Welcome to this episode of Digital Dialogs with Gururaj Rao and Vinayak Khadye. I'm your host Vinayak Khadye. Before we begin with the podcast, here is a brief introduction of Guru and I. Gururaj Rao is a well-respected professional with more than 2 decades of experience in CXO roles in banking, financial services, and insurance companies in India. I have more than 2 decades of experience in leadership roles in consulting, insurance industry, and also as a founder of a startup in edtech space. In Digital Dialogues podcast series, Gururaj and I go beyond jargons and buzzwords in the digital world and bring to the fore the true meanings of these terms. We discuss models, methodologies, technologies, architectures, case studies, and challenges and issues associated with digital initiatives which can help you as a decision maker. In today's episode, we discuss how a large financial services company underwent digital transformation and what major challenges they faced during their transformation program. Uh, we can take, in fact, a business case here, where which you are which you fairly seen very closely, which was a large uh, uh, financial uh, services organization. I mean, would you like to talk about uh, you
Sure.
know
So,
that?
so when I speak about a specific large financial services group, I should say, because the company had its own large operations plus a few subsidiaries, and operated mainly in the rural parts of India, um, and even now continues to be extremely successful and proud of its uh, clientele and customer franchise in the villages. Um, so in that, what used to happen was that systems used to be just systems of record. That the transaction is done, you come and record it in the systems for the sake of records, keeping the books, and that's about it. Customer interactions were physical, the branches were physical, the transactions would happen in a physical manner. You lend money, you verify the customer in a physical way, and come and collect cash from the customer. So those were the mechanisms. uh, Over a period, however, I mean, just imagine if that were the case, how would that organization look in today's environment, right? I mean, it would be considered outdated. It would be considered totally obsolete. That people can't work in this environment, because even in the rural areas, even in the interior parts of the country, now we have customers who are very conversant with technology and eager to use technology. Okay, I mean, they use mobile devices to the maximum possible extent. They use the internet to the to the extent possible. We have seen all the growth in telecom traffic. We have seen the growth in mobile devices. Also now slowly increasing growth in uh, you know laptops and desktops. So clearly the customer preferences are changing. Clearly the customer's digital footprint is changing. The customer has Aadhaar record. The customer has other DBT transactions happening, and SMS is coming in for that from the government. The customer has now got used to payment channels. I would not want to name the specific wallets out there, but they're all used to digital means of working. So if a financial services organization were to say, sorry, I'm still living in the earlier era, it's not going to work. So the organization now has a centralized contact center. It has CRM at every branch for transacting with the customers and providing for cross sell and upsell opportunities to the salespeople, and all the payment channels available on its website. Okay, so these are changes which have happened, and when these things happen, then the people who are at the front end, their task changes. They have to be themselves, first of all, technology savvy, Plus they have to you know uh, work in a more integrated manner. They have to also work with the uh, the partners of the transactions who are outside the organization, and use the tools that are integrated with the partners. So so there is a reconciliation that happens between the transactions at the front end, transactions in the branch, transactions at the head office. All that are real time available, so that the customer gets real time services, the partners get real time updated services. And all these, frankly speaking, have led to an improvement in the operating margin, because earlier there was so much of focus on paperwork, there's so much of focus on data entry, that the costs were enormous. But now the productivity per employee has gone up, the cost per transaction has gone down, the quality of the transaction has improved. So let's face it, yes, the cost of technology may have increased, applied within. So suppose 100 rupees is the budget, overall operating budget of the organization. Maybe earlier the technology was, say, 5 rupees. Now, even if it has become 10 rupees, the remaining 95 rupees has come to 80 rupees or so. So the overall cost reduces with regard to the per unit cost that I'm talking about. So while the uh, technology pie in the overall operating expense of the organization increases, the overall pie is shrinking, the operating expense shrinks. Okay, so that's very essential. That's one. The second thing is, technology channels have become hygiene for all the interactions, all the stakeholders, right from the board of directors. I can tell you, the board of directors today want electronic ways of working. They want the notes of the board to be sent in an electronic form. They want discussions on those to happen in an electronic form. Many of them attend meetings virtually. Okay, so
True.
right from that stage, from the board as the stakeholders, investors as the stakeholders, to the employees, to the partners, the suppliers, the intermediaries, and of course the customer segments. Any customer you speak to, even if the person is happy with a physical interaction, he still wants to see a hygiene factor with regard to the digital channels. When they speak, they say, oh, can I see this on my on my laptop? Can I see this on my phone? Can you please send me a document on WhatsApp? That's the question that any customer today asks.
Very true.
So digitalization has become a hygiene factor today, in addition to, of course, providing the benefits.
True. So, Guru, you've talked about this, large financial services organization, which underwent this transformation initiative,
Yeah,
and
and this transformation was not very quick. I mean, it took a few years, but it has happened. And it involved even things at the back end, which I'm not right now referring to, but more on the
correct.
visible side. I mean, the back end thing of the cloud and data center and all those. That's a separate topic for
That's
discussion.
true. That's true. But can you, I mean, can you probably talk about, you know, so I mean, before that, was this uh, a, a, a specific initiative that was identified as a large digital transformation initiative or a program, or it was more of, I wouldn't call it accidental, but a set of multiple independent initiatives probably which got stitched together eventually to deliver these benefits that you talked about.
No, no, no. It was not independent initiatives. It's more of a plan which was discussed, right from the key stake shareholders at
Okay.
the board level, and a set of initiatives were formed and tracked and reported at right at the board level, right from an enterprise CRM to mobility channels to to the payment channels. uh, all those were discussed right at the board stage, and over a period of reviews with the board, these were reported and monitored, and the changes were noticed.
Okay.
So
So
I
so
would
it was
not
a
say that
fairly okay. So it was a fairly well defined program for
yes,
the company, which was transformative in nature.
yes,
Now,
and it did involve. Sorry, just to complete the point, it
no,
did
no.
involve some amount of pushback from people, because uh, having operations in the rural parts of the country, there were skeptics that would technology work in, I mean, be beneficial in rural India. Not that would it work, but is it really useful to the business? Okay, does it add
Yeah.
value? And nothing wrong with such a pushback, but having seen successes, initial successes, people started accepting it. And of course, there were a lot of comparisons with people in the, the competitors in the urban areas and semi-urban areas, and hence, you know there were people then slowly started coming around and accepting the initiatives.
Yeah, I remember, one company where we worked together. We, undertook a major BPM and, document management initiative led transformation of new business process, where I remember underwriters used to come and tell us as to, how would they do underwriting looking at scanned images. They like to feel the paper. Okay.
Yeah.
That was that was what they used to talk about.
That was the
And
era. Yeah, today
yeah,
it's impossible.
correct, correct. But coming back to the initiative that we were talking about, where which you saw and oversaw probably very closely. Uh, what were the major challenges, that you faced, or the program or the initiative faced from a engagement
Well,
perspective or overall program perspective? One,
multiple.
of course, is, as you said, culture and resistance to change. But
Yeah,
besides that, I mean,
yeah. See, besides that, there are two parts. One is, you need the budgets for that, okay, for the initiatives. Uh, Fortunately, the organization had deep pockets, okay, but did it have the allocated funds for these initiatives? That was the question. So, how do you get that? Okay, and the third part was the skills required to implement these. So it was necessary to get the people and the financial resources into the picture. Not very easy. It took a lot of discussions and a lot of back and forth with regard to what is actually required and why is it required, and then implement these programs. Uh, in fact, I do remember things even going to the extent of people asking for even training employees on technology. Okay. uh, I mean, I had to push back on some of the initiatives, like telling people that, I mean, does an employee need any training on using a payment wallet in those days? Okay, they are all using it. Does a employee need a training on instant messaging solutions? Okay, I mean, when they are able to do this, why do they need training on internal uh, technologies? Just because it's been developed internally or hosted internally doesn't mean that the employee needs a particular training to use a particular solution. So these kind of costs can be reduced, they can be minimized. Okay. uh, in fact, in couple of company wide town halls, I have stated as the CIO of the organization that the most important solution that they use is not run by IT. I mean, I'll name it, but it was WhatsApp, right? So I'm just saying that, when people are conversant with technology, resistance, or asking for resources to overcome the resistance is not necessary at all. That's just
yeah,
a, yeah, that's
yeah.
just a
So
decision
so
mechanism.
yeah. So two challenges that you've talked about. One is the financial budgets. So essentially, uh, you know, assigning these budgets and funding is very critical from for a timely execution of this program.
See,
Second is
I mean,
of course, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So from a funding also, IT funding, I'll just let out a small secret, which I'm sure even the CFOs know about it. For the last 20 years or so, I have seen IT budgets. I can tell you simply that IT budgets do not get used up completely in a year. There are various reasons why IT expenses actually do not go as planned. So even if I ask for 100 rupees and I get those 100 rupees, it doesn't happen, of course. If I ask for 80, maybe 60 or 70 will be approved. That's okay. But the point is that money will still be sufficient because of various reasons. The projects, for that particular year. I'm not saying that the projects may not overrun or so, but there are various reasons by which due to which the expenses actually do not happen in that period. So people should not worry that, oh, the IT guy has planned an expense of 100 rupees and I can't afford it. That 100 will happen over not 1 year, it may happen over 1.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever. So let's be very clear that uh, people should be more practical. Does the organization have the wherewithal to actually spend that money? Spending money is not easy. You will have to define the scope of the initiative. That itself will take some time. You will have to get the right partners to do the task. You have to evaluate the technologies and then start the work. All this doesn't happen you know overnight, and hence uh, I think people should not worry too much about the financial allocation. They should start the work if they have got enough for the first stage. Mute. Vinayak, you're on mute.
So one of the concerns that uh, CFOs and finance team always has, which I have come across, is ROI. Okay, and again, I'll draw your attention to the same engagement that I talked about, which was BPM and document management scanning driven transformation of new business process. And it was early days for that life insurance company, and obviously the volumes, okay, did not justify the expenditure. And uh, uh, both finance and IT team spent few months, okay, to calculate ROI, and present it to the board, which could be acceptable to the board. But we could never come up with a very favorable payback period or ROI. I remember, my boss took me, to the CFO, and we were discussing the ROI and payback period, and it was almost 7 years for that initiative. Okay, so clearly CFO said that this is something that was not acceptable. He came from manufacturing background, and he told me that 7 years payback is typically identified for green initiatives. Okay, those days. So he was not in favor, but eventually, considering the long term plan and long term objectives of the company still went ahead and implemented this initiative, and it was a very beneficial initiative for the organization, and it became a norm, as you keep using this term, hygiene, uh,
True.
factor,
See, that is, yeah.
technology as
See,
hygiene
that's
factor.
true. See, when we look at technology initiatives, I think we have to look at both the long term as well as the short term direction of things. Okay, the long term direction for the, I mean, for any business, for anything, is adoption of technology. Okay, and we were all lucky to see that over the last 20-25 years in India, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's been huge adoption of technology. The second thing that's happened in the financial services sector, especially, has been the scale up of the business. Okay, I mean, when we speak about volumes that used to happen say 25 years ago, and what's happening today, every organization has grown multiple times in terms of volumes of transactions, customers, you know. So there's no way things would happen manually. Okay. It reminds me, in 1980s, the government of India wanted to computerize public sector banks, and even the officer level associations were against the computerization. There were
True.
agitations for many months. Okay, and you know, now recently, a few years ago, when additional services were being proposed, the first thing that those officers wanted was computerization. Okay, they said, I mean, with these volumes, with these services, we can't manage manually. Let's just
Correct.
see. No? I mean, a generation ago, a bank account would see handful of transactions in a month, maybe, one income and some two, three, four, five checks kind of a thing. Today, I mean, there are n number of transactions happening every day. So that's the level of activity that's happening. Yeah. So, given the scale up of the financial services industry and the developments in the technology space, it has been a natural fit for every financial services organization to adopt technology and structure themselves accordingly.
True, true. So as I was mentioning, just to summarize, what we've discussed so far in terms of challenges. So you've talked about financial budgets. Then we've talked about the uh, attitude or the way the organizations and CFOs and finance teams look at the financial allocation and their need to see the ROI, okay, which is acceptable, to the board and to the organization. So that is one challenge. Second is, of course, the skill sets that you've talked about, and sometimes uh, training of or new skills, acquisition of new skills by the team members is sometimes necessary, either to actually execute the projects or to even to manage these initiatives.